Hello and welcome. Well, today I'd love to share some personal insight with you. The whole reason that Kitty Petey exists is because one day it dawned on me. When it's my turn to be a parent, where do I go for information and support? Like, where do you even start? And I thought to myself, am I even capable of being a parent? I clearly and distinctly remember just that moment. And I felt like a wash of fear that sort of ran over me. But looking back retrospectively at that defining moment in my life, I understand now that all I was intending and just really wanted was to be the best parent that I could be. So, looking at you and whatever your personal road to parenthood is, I think everybody experiences similar feelings at one point or another. Really realistically, who doesn't want to be the best parent that you can be, and to, of course, give your child the best life possible. So, if you're a dad, dad to be, and thinking of starting a family, and have possibly felt and thought similar feelings before, then you're in the right place. Now, today we welcome our special guest, Dr. Xenakis, who will share tips how you can prepare your parenting mindset. Now, Dr. Xenakis, aka Dr. Zed, is a medical doctor, author of 8 books, and a transformologist. I love that word, transformologist, and I can't wait to pick your brain on this. Now, Dr. Scott helps proactive people to be happier, more confident, decisive, and effective so they can activate to their fullest potential and become the person and parent that they are capable of being. And realistically, who doesn't want that? So, thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Zed, and welcome. How are you?
Great, thank you very much. Wonderful, Rachel. Thank you. And the reason people call me Dr. Z is because no one can pronounce my surname. It's Zarcinas. But don't worry if you can't pronounce it. Just call me Dr. Z. I'm very happy. I've been called a lot worse in my time, so don't worry about it all.
Haven't we all? Well, this is our first chat with you, so welcome. Now, I understand that you specialize in helping work at home fathers, which there are so many now, of course, with
Yes.
what we've gone through with COVID over the last 12 months. But you help them build their self esteem and self belief so they have the confidence and the courage to live a life that is true to themselves. Now, on that philosophy, I'd love to just delve into that a little bit more, and just would love for you maybe just to expand a little bit on that philosophy and just maybe just tell us a little bit more about it.
Absolutely. Yes, look, I've been a work-at-home dad for 20 years. And in fact, today is actually very quite a momentous day for me personally. Anyway, it's my daughter's 18th birthday right here, right now, today, on this very day. So
Brilliant.
it was actually 18 years ago that I became a father for the very first time. So yeah,
Congratulations.
uh, great, great day for us. So look, I've been working at home for 20 years from a home office, and this is my home office here. I've obviously grown my business over time, and I have staff around the world that work in their own home office. So when COVID hit last year, nothing really changed for how we
Operate.
worked and operated. I mean, obviously, without the internet, we kind of don't have a business. So the internet helped us immensely. But I understood going through the growing pains, 20, 15 years ago of work, of suddenly working from home after being working in the hospital system for 10, 15 years as well. It is a big mind shift change that has to happen, and so I decided, part of my experience of life and work, all put it together. I kind of wanted to help. I want to help everyone, but I wanted to sort of specialize in and work at home fathers who were probably quite, thrown into the deep end, so to speak, having to work at home when COVID hit, and then suddenly they've got their family, if they've got a family, the irritations, the distractions, the inability to focus on your work. I mean, all those sorts of things come into play, which probably women or mothers over the time, they probably were well used to anyway. But I
Yeah.
think it's I think it's the fathers that really needed to get their mindset right. I think otherwise, that frustration can boil over, especially if you're living in the same place with everyone over an extended period of time. It can lead to very frustrating moments. So yes,
Understandable.
I wanted to help in that. I say I specialize in working home fathers, but I specialize in anyone who are aspirational, who want to become the person that they're capable of becoming. And I do that in three main ways. I lift I lift the mind fog so that you've got clarity of the direction you want to go and the confidence to then walk down that path that you see ahead, because you may well see the path ahead, but if you don't have the confidence to actually walk that path, then you're not going to walk it. And as you yourself would know, you probably had this vision of starting Kiddipedia, but there was probably an initial, oh my goodness, what do I do? How do I do it? And I
I
help
still have
with
that.
well, I think we all do, don't we? It's a work in progress, isn't it? And as you go, but you get better at it. That's the point.
Yeah.
And this is also my point about parenting, is that you're never really ready to have to be a parent. I don't think anyone is ever 100% ready, but it's a work in progress, and you learn from your mistakes. You learn
Yes.
as you go, and if you've got the right attitude to begin with, which, like yourself, you just want to be the best parent you can for the benefit of your children. If you start with that, then from good things grow. It's so if you have a bad attitude to start with, like you don't care about your kids, or you don't care about your partner, or you don't care about anything, well, from that, bad things grow.
Yes.
Okay, so it all starts with attitude. Attitude is the first cause in this instance. It's from it. Everything else that's good comes from a good attitude. And so that starts with mindset, and it starts with understanding that you're not going to be perfect to start with, and to think that you can be perfect, I think, is actually borders on having a bad attitude. Actually, perfectionism gets in the way of being a good parent.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind, I'd like to tell a story, which is not about parenting, but it's about having that mindset, what I call the 90% is good enough mindset. And in the 70s, the US sprint Olympic team, the coaches decided to do an experiment. So they got the best sprinters in the country, and they were timing them. And they said, right, I want you to give me 110%. And so the sprinters got up there in starting blocks, ready, set, go, bang, bang, and they took the times. Coaches took the times. Said, very well done. And then they got them back to the starting line, and they said, look, now I just want you to give me 90% effort, not 110% effort, just 90% effort. And ready, set, go, bang, click, they went, and they sprint, and they took the times back. And guess what the results were? Would you like to have a guess at what the results that they showed?
The same? I don't
Well,
know.
actually, when they did got the final results, the 90% effort was faster than giving 110%.
How so?
Well, what they found out is that when you try to do 110% all the time, you're filled with worry and anxiety and external pressures. You put pressure on yourself. But when you give yourself permission to only do 90%, all those anxieties and worries go away, and you actually perform better. You actually perform, you're actually more productive. So you can use this in your day-to-day work, in your career and the job that you do. 90% will release a lot of the stress, a lot of the worry, and you will actually find yourself being more productive because you're not always aiming to be perfect.
Okay, so what I'm
So
hearing, tell me if this is right. So we put undue pressure and stress on ourselves, which in turn actually makes our lives harder than they need to be. So it's a concept of work smarter, not harder, and applying the right mindset to take some pressure off ourselves, and in turn, your output in life in general is going to be greater quality, and you'll be able to sort of, I guess, sort of push to greater capacity overall. I don't know.
Uh,
Is
yeah,
that what I'm hearing?
I think you've summarised that brilliantly. It is exactly
Oh,
that.
thank you.
And I give a lot of workshops. Well, up until last year, it was around the country. I kind of have had to stick here in South Australia for the time being. But hopefully this year I'll start getting more out to Melbourne and Sydney and Brisbane again. But I give workshops on how to increase your personal professional effectiveness.
Mm.
And part of your personal effectiveness is parenting effectiveness as well. So, yeah, so I give the 90% mindset talk during my workshops, and I go into a lot more detail than we've got the time for here. But it's important to realize the pressures that we put on ourselves, and part of that pressure is trying to be the perfect parent. And I really think that is it's, first of all, it's unrealistic. I don't think there's anyone ever in the history of mankind, humankind, has been a perfect parent. And even if you did everything by the book, your kids will still find something wrong with you anyway in your parenting school. So it's not about being perfect. It's about having the mindset that you can learn from your mistakes, and having the mindset that you are a work in progress, just like your children growing up are a work in progress as well.
And
Yeah.
so then, speaking about mindset, I mean, what have you found are some of the most common self-belief issues that you find men have and you actually help them overcome?
Well, the biggest the mindset issue is fear. And that goes in any aspect of life, not just parenting, but in anything. It's fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, fear of not knowing what to do or how to do things, fear of but fear of failure. I think is one of the biggest mindset issues that we almost overcome. And I think, getting back to what we just said about perfectionism, if having that 90% mentality of saying 90% is good enough and I will learn from my mistakes, so I will get better, that fear of failure actually diminishes just from that simple technique alone, because you're not putting your pressure on yourself to be 100% correct every single moment of the day, which no human being can be. So
Yes.
to have that unrealistic expectation of yourself builds with the fear of not being good enough or not being able to live to your own expectations of being that perfect parent.
So typically, I mean, what are some examples that you can give us then of how someone can make a positive difference to their life through positive action then? What are some examples of that possibly?
Well, first of all, you got to get your mindset right. Everything starts with mindset. Everything starts with attitude. And I love Zig Ziglar. I don't know if you've heard of Zig Ziglar, but he was quite a famous international motivational speaker
Awesome.
around.
Yes.
And he said, your attitude, not your aptitude, will determine your altitude. And that means it doesn't matter how good you are or how talented you are, it's your attitude that will get you higher to where you want to go to, more than your talents. So, and that's the same in parenting. It's your attitude first. So it doesn't matter if you do everything right. You might read all the books about parenting and have them, your child eating all the right food or going to bed at the right time or what. Yes, that's good, but it's actually the attitude that you want to be the best parent, and you don't have to be the perfect parent. I think from that grows a more sort of balanced parenting style. There are many books out there that will tell you what to do, very regimented. I
But
think
everything
those sorts
starts
of books.
with perspective, doesn't it? It starts with what's your starting point? What is your lens, the lens of life that you're actually sort of putting on everything, would you say?
Absolutely. Look, your attitude is the lens through which you view the world.
Yeah,
It's through the
totally
world that you
agree.
perceive. So we all view we all view the world through three main factors, and they're actually wired into your brain. So I'll give you a bit of neurology here while we're speaking. The brain is divided into three main areas. So it's the forebrain, the midbrain, and the hindbrain.
Yep.
Now, the forebrain is your most evolved part of your brain. It's where your logic, your reasoning, your plans, your analyses. It's what separates the human beings from the rest of the animal kingdom. The midbrain is basically your pleasure and pain center. It's your emotional center. That's called the paleo-mammalian center, and that's the second most evolved part of the brain. The least evolved part is right at the back. It's called the reptilian brain. The hindbrain sits right on top of where the skull and the spine meet. That's more instincts, you know, the fight and flight response, that sort of stuff. But we view the world through these three filters. We view the world through our beliefs and our thoughts. We view the world through our emotions, and we view the world through our natural basic instincts as well. So these are the three filters, and I talk a lot about these in my books and also in my workshops. But just so you know that we don't always see what is actually really out there. We see it through filters until it gets to us, and those filters we actually put into place ourselves. Now, one of the filters we use, as I said, is our beliefs and our thoughts, and well, that's also our attitudes. So we view the world through our attitude. So it doesn't get to our perception until it's gone through these filters. It's like these glasses. We have to view the world through this before it gets to us. So that's why we don't see the world exactly the same as everyone else. Now, when a police officer is interviewing witnesses to a crime scene, they will get multiple different versions of this one event, because everyone has been viewing that through their, usually it's emotional center when something drastic is happening. So we're all filtering different. Now, if a police officer gets, 15 exactly the same answers, well, he knows it's a setup because that just doesn't happen. He knows that they've collaborated to give this story. So that's one example. So yes, so your attitude, which is part of your forebrain, is vital for how you view your world. And that leads to the next step, which your attitude or your thoughts lead to your behavior. You see, thought comes first, then emotions actually, and then behavior. So how you think is how you act.
Yes.
And that, especially in parenting, is vital, because it's how you think first is how you're going to act towards your child.
Yes. Now, you referenced mind fog earlier, and we've all experienced mind fog at one point or another in our life. And most commonly, it occurs during times of high stress. And of course, finding out you're going to be a parent can be quite a stressful time for some dads to be, depending on their circumstance. So speaking generally, of course, I mean, how would you suggest dads to find some clarity, some direction and confidence as they approach fatherhood?
Yes, excellent question. Look, the way I remove or help lift the mind fog in people is based on four things. And it's to ask yourself have to ask these questions. Who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? And how do you do it? And all my non-fiction books, by the way, I write fiction, but all my non-fiction books and all my workshops are based on answering or getting clarity on these four things. Who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? And how do you do it? Who you are as an upcoming father. Okay, you need to define yourself. It's an identity issue that because you're going from suddenly, especially if it's your first child, you're suddenly going from a carefree, single, or in a relationship person who don't really have to worry about anything else except yourself and your partner, and then suddenly the game changer comes along, the baby, and your whole world changes. You literally live in a different world, because suddenly you have responsibility for another human being that is totally and utterly reliant upon you.
Yes.
So who you are changes. and it changes. It can be a sudden change, or it can be a gradual change. But I think for most of us, we think we're already, my wife or my partner's having a child. Suddenly, bang! Oh my goodness, it's here. Oh,
Yep.
what do I do? I've never held a baby in my life. For a lot of, especially for a lot of men, and so suddenly, oh my goodness, I'm responsible. And not only is it just like a 9-to-5 job, this kid is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. And in fact, I would even say, for as long as you are, if you live to 100 years old and your child is 75 or 70, you are still a parent thinking of that child and worrying about that child for the rest of your life and the rest of their life. So it's an identity shift. That first one is I'm now a dad, or I'm now a parent, or I'm now a mother for the first time, and that takes some getting used to. But there's no time to think about it. You just got to do it, don't you? I mean, you can't just say, "Oh, well, I'll go away for a nice retreat and think about this and meditate on it for a while." You've got to get on and do it. So who are you gets changed. What do you do? Well, that tends to be, well, I have to. It's all part of the. It's related to the who you are, but the what you do is also about just the general day-to-day things. Now, obviously, for a mother, for a new mother and a new father, there are different roles that you have to play. I mean, I can't say breastfeeding anymore, can I? I have to say chest feeding or bottle feeding. The mother tends to take more of the nurturing role, especially in the first few months of life. That's not 100%, but it is pretty much the general. So the father is generally the person on the outside whose main supportive role is to help the mother help this child, and that is the first sort of initiation, I guess, of being a father. Now, there's always people who talk about the 3 Ps of maleness or fatherhood, and that's to be a protector, a provider, and a procreator. And so, as a father, you protect your family, you protect your child, you provide for them, and procreation is obviously parenting, fathering more children with your partner. But the providing, I wanted to talk a little bit about the providing here, because it's not just about providing a roof over your head and food on the table. There's, Maslow has a hierarchy of needs, which you might be aware of. But I mean, obviously, feeling safe, being safe initially, being fed, getting all your nutrients the baby needs. Yes, okay, that's we need to provide for that. But there's more to it than just that. There's also providing the nurture, the care, the kindness, the love. That's not just the realm of the mother here. That's also very much the realm of the father as well. And I think that's where a lot of young fathers struggle with the most, because they've really so focused on the providing and the protection that they seem to forget that there's actually an even equivalent or even greater part of being a father, which is, as I just said, the caring, the kindness, the nurturing, the love that they give. And I want to give another story about this. Research, I think we're talking maybe 15, 20 years ago, where they did research, a psychologist did research on chimpanzees or orangutans, but it was an ape. And they got the baby, a newborn baby, and they placed the baby with 2 robots. One robot was full of hair, was warm from the inside, but its breast didn't have any milk, and through that they gave a teat from a milk bottle to feed it, but there was no milk.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the other robot was tin, was cold, but the breast or the nipple produced milk, and the baby got to choose between the 2 types of mother in this situation. And what do you think was the result of this research?
I would have thought that they would have chosen the warm mother, the warm robot.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what happened. Time after time after time, the baby chose the warmth and the nurturing mother, even though there was no breast milk, or even there was no milk to provide it with sustenance. It chose the love and the warmth and the nurture ahead of the sustenance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted to bring that up just to show you that these sort of soft skills, if you will, like the words that we use in sort of business world, the soft skills of empathy and care are just as vital to a growing organism, like an ape or even like your own child. They're just as vital as providing the basics of protection and food.
Yes.
So this is, I just want to get this sort of into people's minds to say that actually,
even though a father is not necessarily capable of breastfeeding a child, the child is still going to seek and yearn for that warmth, which is something a father that can definitely provide. It's
absolutely
irrespective if they can feed the child or not, which is so important. Now, I wanted to just clarify, like, we published your article, and the title of that is Thinking of Starting a Family. Here's how to prepare your parenting mindset. Now, just really quite briefly, we'll have a link through to the article, of course, in the show notes. But for someone who hasn't read the article yet, can you please tell us what it's about? And of course, just what inspired you to write this article?
Yes, what inspired me to write this article was I wrote it probably 6 weeks, 8 weeks ago, I think now. It inspired me because my upcoming daughter's 18th birthday, which was like caused me to think of how I was 18 years ago, leading up to that period of being a father for the first time, and just really accessing the thoughts and the emotions leading up to it, and how, even though I had studied pediatrics and did a lot of work in the pediatric wards and the maternity wards of hospitals around Sydney, Adelaide, London, and had dealt with babies. I mean, I must have seen 20 babies a day for years and years and years, newborn babies, held them. Even though I was probably as well prepared as...
So you were underprepared then? So you were quite underprepared, were you?
Well, yes, I was. And it was because of mindset. I didn't realize what was required as a new father, regarding, and all the things we've just mentioned about. All I thought was I just needed to provide and protect. So it was actually all these other, what we term soft skills, even though they're not soft, they're vital. All these skills that I probably had neglected for a good chunk of my life up until then. And it was only being a parent that I actually had to force myself into reevaluating what these skills were, and what was required, or what was demanded actually from my screaming, 2-week-old baby that was there. And it was completely different from what I'd thought.
So what you felt at that time is undoubtedly what a lot of fathers feel at that same point. So how did you then define, I guess, the path to where we are here now, 18 years later to the day, where you understand that looking at opposite ends and bookends of this sort of case scenario, how have you gone from feeling like you're an underprepared father to now understanding that it is all about having a parenting mindset to be able to help support, I guess, the father's sort of mental well-being and sense of this place, I guess, in the child's life, and to where you are today? I'd love to know a little bit more about that.
Yes, I think the overwhelming emotion is helplessness as a father, and that can be quite overwhelming for a lot of people. And that's what I had to learn to overcome, was a sense of helplessness when the child is screaming. You know it's been fed. You know it's cleaned. Its nappy is changed. It's wrapped up nice and warm, and everything that you've done absolutely has no difference on this screaming little monster that's there in front of you that you just want to go, oh my goodness, well, what else do I need to do?
Now,
And so
how does the right parenting mindset then change that particular case scenario then?
yes, because then that's what I had to learn through experience, in that even though I can do everything that's required of me, what is the most thing that is required, this child requires of me, is love, first and foremost, and to acknowledge that I can't be the savior of the moment all the time. And sometimes kids just scream, even though that's what babies do. And so I had to accept that I couldn't always solve the problem. And that's part of being a protector as well. And so that's the helplessness that you have to get through as well, is that no matter what you do, sometimes it just isn't going to be enough. And you have to accept that as a parent, and especially as a father. Sometimes you just have to accept, okay, I have done my best. If you can look at yourself in the mirror and go, you know what, I did everything I could. My attitude was right during that moment. It didn't work out how I planned. Then you can give yourself sort of credit. You can accept that sometimes the moment isn't going to allow a peaceful resolution, if that's the word for it. And so that's why I came over time. You know, that child grows up. I mean, it happens very quickly. You know, they say, oh my goodness, you know, suddenly, like 18 years old, my child now's at university, and I can distinctly remember walking home with the pram on the very first day after hospital, coming, you know, into Soho in London. We had a little flat, and I distinctly remember that as if it was yesterday.
It goes very, very quickly.
Yes, and it happens so quickly. And so what I've learned over that time is the three most important things that I think a child needs. And that is to feel wanted, to feel needed, and to feel loved. And I think if that is the foundation with which every child can grow up with, to feel wanted, to feel needed, and to feel loved, I honestly believe that that child can take on the world. Yeah. Simply because they've got a foundation that is so strong that no matter if the world is falling around them, they fall back onto that foundation. And believe me, we all fall back onto our foundation.
Yes.
And if that foundation is weak, we keep falling.
Yep.
But if we've got that strong foundation, we know we're wanted, we know we're needed, and we know we're loved. And that starts with your family, that starts with your parenting. Then I really think that your child, whatever they decide to do in life, will be a success and will achieve great things simply because they know that they are wanted, needed, and loved. And that the number one thing of humanity is to want to belong. That is one of the fundamental needs of humanity, of being a human being, is to belong. And if you don't feel you belong, you feel unwanted, you feel unneeded, and you feel unloved. And that, if that continues over a period of time, that leads to all sorts of mental health issues, which also lead to physical health issues down the path. So so the best thing you can do for your child for a mental well-being and healthy well-being over a period of time is just to give them the things that they need, which is to feel needed, to feel wanted, to feel loved.
And Following on from that, you've described in your article 7 rules of fatherhood. Are you able maybe
Yes.
just to tell us a little bit more about each of them? But which are your top three that resonate the most with you? Of course, we will have a link in the show notes through to the article for everyone to read. But I'd love to know, like, what are they sort of generally, but what are the top three that resonate with you?
Yes, and I've got them here with me. Look, I think we've actually talked about them. The one the first one is number 5. Always make your child feel they are wanted, needed, and loved. We just talked about that. That's number 5 on my list, and I think personally, for me, that is probably my number 1. Even though I didn't put it at number 1, I put number 1 as you will never be 100% ready, which is we've also talked about as well. But I wanted that to be number 1, just to get people into that. Go, oh, all right, okay, I don't have to be 100% ready.
Yes.
I can be 90% ready. Okay, so we've talked about that as well. So that was my first one. And we've also talked about number 2 as well, which is your job is not just to help provide the basics like food and shelter. It's to help the important things like love, affection, kindness. So we've talked about number 2 as well. What we haven't talked about though, and this is actually a big one, is number 6, which is a little bit later on in life when the child is maybe going to school or kindergarten or things, and that's to use their imagination. I honestly believe that your imagination is your superpower. Every single human being on this planet has a superpower, and it's all the same. We all have imagination. And this world that we've created as human beings is simply because someone imagined it first. And that's the power of thought. The television didn't just materialize out of nothing. It was thought up by somebody who then helped create it. The internet just didn't happen. It was thought first. How can I have computers around the world communicating with one another? So it first starts with imagination. The man on the moon, or the first person on the moon, Neil Armstrong, didn't get there because someone just said, oh, I just want to send a man to the moon. They had to put into process the imagination process of steps to get that person to the moon. So it all begins with imagination. And if we teach our children that they are creative beings, not just robots just to do a 9-to-5 job every day, that they are creative, and they can use their superpower based on the fact that they are wanted, needed, and loved. Well, my goodness, you've got a superhuman being right there, ready to take on this world and literally go to the moon if they want to. So yeah, so that's probably my top 4.
3.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, and of course, we'll have, as mentioned before, a link through the article in the show notes. And you've been extremely insightful today and helpful for everyone watching and listening. If you, I guess, were to summarize, I guess, your key messages today, what would they be?
Yes, look, number 1, attitude, which is mindset. Just get your attitude right, get your mindset right. Now, if you don't mind, if we've got a couple more minutes, I've got another story to tell you about the Williams sisters, Venus and Serena. Now, I've never personally met Serena and Williams, but I've certainly read articles about them. And one article where they talked about their father growing up as children, their father, while they were practicing tennis, he recognized that both of them had amazing tennis talent. But he also realized that talent alone wasn't going to get them to be where they wanted to get to, which is top of the world in tennis. And so they tell the story of how every time that they practice, he would only say one word to them over and over and over again, over years and years and years. And that one word was attitude. And he kept on saying to them, attitude, attitude, attitude. Time and time again. So they realized that they had to get their attitude right first before they could maximize their talent. You see, the attitude comes first, the talent comes second. So get your attitude right, get your mindset right, then everything else will fall into place.
Yes, I totally agree. And all the information that you've shared today is for fathers to be, and dads also. I mean, they don't necessarily have to be expecting. The child can be here, of course, for them to apply
Yes.
whenever they can. And of course, we wish them all luck in their journey. And if they had any questions and wanted to reach out to you, you did reference before, Dr. Zed, that I understand that you run regular workshops, seminars, and presentations and courses to support those who want to make a positive difference through positive action. So we can include links to all of those things in your books also as well. But if they have any questions for you other than that, whereabouts can they find you?
Yes, my workshops, my website is my name, scottzarcinas.com. Or even if you just Google Dr. Zed, I think I've got a pretty good Google presence with Dr. Zed. I know there's a there's a game, there's a video game called Dr. Zed as well, but I'm not the video game. So if you Google Dr. Zed, or if you Google Scott Zarcinas, you will get my website. On my website, I've got some great links I've got great links to a lot of blog articles too, just like on Kiddipedia as well. So whereas my blog articles are more mindset articles, not necessarily parenting.
But it's
mindset.
all relative. It's all relative,
Yeah.
and everything ties into what we've discussed today. So
Yes.
yeah,
That's right, and links to upcoming workshops, and as I said, personal effectiveness. I mean, that's really where my workshops are at the moment.
that's brilliant. I'm so grateful for your time today, as I'm sure everyone watching and listening is also. So we'll have all the information in the show notes. Dr. Zed, thank you so much, and can't wait for the opportunity to chat with you again in the not too distant future. But until then, stay safe and take care. Thanks again.
Big pleasure. Thank you, Rachel.
Bye.